This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Listening to this podcast? Smart move. Being financially savvy? Smart move. Another smart move? Having State Farm help you create a competitive price when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the personal price plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Smart, sharp, and slightly unhinged. Late Night's Fresh Perspective. The Last Show with David Cooper.
You're sitting on an airplane, and the worst happens. The people to the left and right of you, keep in mind you're in a middle seat, are playing on their tablets, watching videos. Maybe they're playing Candy Crush, and the volume is on. They're not wearing headphones. Incredibly rude. Well, there's a new announcement made by United Airlines that might give you a little joy. I am joined by Carmi Levy. It is time for technology time. It's the time of week Carmi comes on the show, and we talk about technology. Carmi, welcome to the program.
Good to be with you, David. Thanks for having me.
All right. Airlines banning passengers. It's kind of weird because we feel like we have the right to travel. And yet, if enough private companies decide they don't want to travel with you, you can't get anywhere. But on the other hand, certain bad actors should probably be banned from planes, shouldn't they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people behaving badly is, this is the scourge of the travel industry. I was in an airport just last week, Miami. And I'm sitting there at the gate waiting for our flight to be boarding. It is delayed, of course, because that's just the way it is. Thank you, Air Canada. And all of a sudden, I hear this really loud noise coming from just behind me. And I look over my shoulder, and there's this woman, and she's holding her phone right in front of her, kind of like this, like she's talking to the speakerphone. But she's also using her other hand to flip from one video to another. She's clearly watching TikTok videos. And one after the other for an hour at top volume. And literally everyone sitting there in the gate just looked at her like dirty looks. She ignored them all and continued on her merry way. It was the most annoying thing on planet Earth. Why she couldn't buy or use a pair of headphones or buds or whatever, I do not know. But it's like, I have my phone. I'm going to use it on speaker. I don't care. It's 2026. I don't know why people behave this way.
Well, and there's this great, paradox where the kinds of people that are willing to be that socially deviant are the kinds of people where if you say, hey, excuse me, could you turn that down? You could get a violent, rude, ruckus public interaction. So it's like you'd like to think you'd be the person that would say, hey, turn it down. But the people that aren't turning it down are exactly the kind of people you might not want to mess with in public.
Yeah, and that's why I said nothing. I pulled out my AirPods. I made sure that active noise cancellation was on, and I stuck them in my ears, and I continued on my merry way. But it kind of reminded me of like the standards for what is and is not acceptable in public clearly have shifted. But at the same time, in an earlier era, you might have said something, but today you just never know. And so the typical Canadian that I am, I just kind of put my head down and minded my own business and slowly stewed until we boarded the plane. Thankfully, she wasn't on our plane. She wasn't even at the gate for this flight. So what she was doing there, I don't know. But again, like you're in public, behave. But I guess in this day and age, that doesn't seem to be the way for most people.
It used to be like once a year we got an exciting video of someone behaving badly on a plane and freaking out and being removed by airline staff, maybe even the cops. And it was like, the internet went wild for it. Now it seems like a new one exists every day. It seems like since the pandemic, the level of behavior on flights has just gone worse and worse and worse. And it's like, what are the airlines doing about it? And enter our story now, United Airlines is basically saying we can temporarily or permanently ban you. That's according to their contract of carriage. Is that how I say that? If you do this, if you don't wear headphones and you play Candy Crush on volume 101 sitting in a seat, I do think temporary ban for first offense, maybe like a 6-month ban and then permanent maybe is a little more like, I don't like the idea of banning people from flights for life. Then they can't visit their families because I do believe people can learn from their mistakes, but I am for the policy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to draw a line in the sand, and I think it's a good thing to put it in writing. In this case, it's the contract of carriage or the terms of use or terms of service, whatever they want to call it. It is a contract, and these are the rules that the airlines established to ensure safe, secure passage for everyone. And if you don't adhere to them, you lose that right. I'm pleased to see it in writing. What I'm really concerned about, though, is whether they're actually going to enforce it. They're happy to give you a free pair of earbuds if you want, which I think is great. They won't plug into most phones available today because phones no longer have plugs for earbuds. They're all wireless, but you can certainly use the onboard systems if you want. Just plug it into the screen in front of you if your plane has one. But that's the thing is, are they going to empower flight attendants and other staff, whether on the ground or in the air, to enforce this rule and put up with what may very well become an out-of-control situation, put up with viral videos where passengers are beating on staff because they had the temerity to say, please put these headphones in. I don't see that happening. I don't see airlines allowing their employees to become enforcers of these rules. I think it gives them good PR to have these rules in place. I don't think it really changes much unless they're willing to enforce them.
Our next story involves some breaking news. I don't know if you've heard this, but the Trump administration announced some tariffs globally on many countries. This is brand new news as of 1 year ago, Carmi. But if jokes aside, bringing it a little more current, these tariffs were challenged. The Supreme Court of the U.S. struck down at least the global tariffs that the Trump administration tried to put out. I think some of the tariffs are still in place, but the global tariff has been at least struck down by the Supreme Court. Is my understanding correct there before we proceed?
Yeah, so the Supreme Court struck down the global tariffs under the executive orders that he was using under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, but the sectoral tariffs, so on steel and aluminum and stuff like that, still apply. And of course, now in response to the Supreme Court, the president has now enacted other tariffs using different laws that also will inevitably be challenged in court.
Annoying, but whatever. The one company that was particularly affected by the global tariffs is everyone's favorite video game company, Nintendo. Now, I can see why a lot of these large corporations would be reticent to stand up against the federal government in the U.S. to try to not attract too much attention to them. But Nintendo has taken the bold move to try to claw back some of the money they lost, taking the Trump administration to court. Do you think Nintendo is going to get this money back? Do you think the Switch 75 console or whatever is available, what are they on now, Switch 2, the prices will drop? Like, what do we think is going to happen here?
Well, yeah, they're suing them in the U.S. International Court of Trade. They're specifically targeting the Department of Treasury, Homeland Security, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Basically, they're saying, give us our money back. And Nintendo was one of the first companies to raise its prices. They had to increase the price of the Switch last August. Switch 2 is still the same price, but they launched it during this period. It was already significantly expensive. So I think tariffs are already built in there. And I think the fact that they're not an American company, they're based in Japan. And so I don't think they're worried as much about an American tech company, about retribution from the White House by suing them. And I think they can swing for the fences. And certainly there's global support for this. And I would expect that other global technology companies that have also incurred additional costs because of these tariffs are likely going to take similar action in the months to come. And I look forward to it. I say bring it on. Let the business world push back on what has essentially been just an incredibly damaging chapter in economic history.
Do we think other companies are going to step up and try to get their money back? Is the government claiming, we can't give it back because it's too confusing and we have too much of a paper? Like, what are the excuses? Like, why aren't they giving the money back to begin with?
They're dragging their feet on this. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says that they're working on a system to process refunds, but they're not giving a timeline. They're not sharing any details. They're not engaging in any kind of dialogue. So everyone is just kind of forced to hold their breath and hope that the U.S. government refunds them in a timely manner. Don't hold your breath too long. So I think that's the thing, is that they're hoping to make this go away just by not acting on it. And I would expect Nintendo will be the first of many such companies to go to the courts and say, we're not waiting for you, Customs and Border Patrol. We're going to sue.
Now, if these companies are successful, most, maybe not all, but most, I don't think will reduce their prices. They'll just take it as extra profit. This is what happens. The consumers, deal with price inflation, deal with things getting more expensive. And then once we've accepted it, even if these companies can produce these products cheaper, they keep the price the same way. Maybe Nintendo won't do this, but others will, I think.
Oh yeah, don't expect prices to drop anytime soon. Certainly, the war over Iran isn't helping an already tenuous situation. It's only going to get worse from here. Save your pennies.
Sierra has all the best active and outdoor brands you need, from athletic stuff, like a full court pickup game, swish, to athlete-ish stuff, like a half-mile stroll. Get those steps in! And for morning hikes up the mountain trail, good pace, to nighttime ghost stories from the camping chair. What a twist! Whatever level of active, Sierra loves it all. Head to Sierra or Sierra.com for the brands you want at the prices that let you do it all. From athletic to athlete-ish, Sierra's got it.
Carmi Levy, tech analyst, is here to discuss Apple's brand new product announcement, the iPad keyboard. It is not called that at all. It is called the MacBook Neo, but is it just an iPad with a keyboard? That's what we'll discuss. Regardless, it's a discount laptop, a completely new product. Carmi, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you. Yeah, I mean, that was my first thought, is that, well, now I don't need to buy an iPad anymore because this basically is a grown-up iPad. It even runs the same chip, the A18 Pro, that the iPhone 16 Pro used from last year. So it is essentially architecturally an iPad. It just happens to run Mac OS. And it addresses a lot of the concerns that a lot of people have been saying about Macs, that the entry-level sort of price point is too high. You can buy a Windows machine for, around $800 in Canada, $500 in the US, but you certainly can't buy a Mac. In Canada, it's $1,500 to get into the cheapest MacBook Air. So this really, it's the first time in basically ever that Apple has really decided to sell a budget MacBook. And to a certain extent, I mean, there are certainly lots of compromises in the engineering, but it's getting a lot of buzz. Like, for a lot of people who are looking for just a quick and cheap and dirty way to get into a Mac and don't want to build up an iPad, buy a keyboard, buy a case, at which point you probably should have just bought a Mac anyway. This is an alternative to them, and they will sell truckloads of these things in the months to come.
Now, I remember, 15, 20 years ago, a new product class of laptops was announced called the Netbook. And they were basically just like underpowered mini laptops that were just sold for like web browsing and basic tasks. This whole product category kind of was an utter failure. But I do wonder, was it because this product class, there was no demand for it, or because the chips and the internals were just so lousy compared to regular computers in that era? That's why they failed. So I do wonder, will the MacBook Neo fail the way the Netbook failed because consumers don't want it? Or are the chips that they're putting in there, despite being underpowered, are they powerful enough to provide like a usable laptop experience? I'm of the belief that this product vertical will succeed, but I do wonder, has Apple not learned from the lessons of the past? Have they taken into account the lessons of the past? This is my question for this new product.
Yeah, and I mean, the worry is, and I used a netbook for a while because I was given one, and it was a terrible experience.
I had one too. They were garbage, but it's all I could afford in undergrad.
Yeah. right price, wrong technology, because they were just ridiculously underpowered, almost deliberately hobbled from the factory. And that was the worry about the MacBook Neo, is that it uses an iPhone chip, that it only has 8 gigs of RAM, not the minimum 16 that you think most computers would use today. It lacks a number of other features, right? The webcam is only HD, is 1080p. It doesn't have a backlit keyboard. It doesn't have a Thunderbolt port. It's just USB-C. Like, there are just a lot of reasons, a lot of compromises to hit that price point. But it's a different world. And in terms of the initial reviews, anyway, are this thing, at least at a basic level, if you set your expectations right. In other words, if you're not producing video and you're just using it for light work, it's actually not that bad. And it isn't the penalty box that an equivalent cheap Windows laptop would be, because a lot of those Windows laptops are terrible as well. And so the question is does it meet that minimum? And at least initial reviews indicate that, yeah, it certainly does.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do think Apple will get this right. I think the Netbook, it was the wrong time for that kind of product. And the way you describe it, right price, wrong technology, or what did you say? Right price, wrong?
Yeah, it was the right price and it was the wrong technology. Yeah. They simply made too many compromises to hit that price point. Whereas with Apple, they have made compromises, but it doesn't seem to hobble the work experience. And so the machine is good enough. You're not going to be sitting there twiddling your thumbs in frustration, waiting for it to catch up. Even with 8 gigs of RAM, even with this so-called, A18 Pro chip, which is essentially a mobile chip, highly efficient, but not terribly powerful. It's good enough for most day-to-day applications, as well as Apple Intelligence, which is what Apple wants all of its devices to support.
Will you be able to run a full operating system on there, or will it be pared down similar to iOS on the phone? Like, will I be able to install whatever I want, open up a command terminal, like have unrestricted access to my own device? Or is it more like an iPhone where you can't install anything unless it's App Store approved?
I think that's the kind of the key sort of win here, is that this is a full version of Mac OS. And so it's, as it runs on a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, it's the same OS on the MacBook Neo as well, and no compromises there. So if you want to download your own software from the web or go to the App Store or build your own, you absolutely can. It might just run a little bit slower because the hardware is a little less robust than what you would find on an Air or a Pro.
I'm still calling it the iPad Keyboard Edition.
I like that. I might borrow that if that's okay.
All right, let's go to our next story. A few weeks ago, Carmi, you and I chatted about this bizarro social network online called Moltbook. I imagine like spider carcasses molting or something like this, or snake skin. But it was basically...
It just needs a theme song, that's all.
It was like a Reddit-style social networking website meant for AI chatbots only. It wasn't clear to me whether it was like a joke or a research project or maybe both. And the posts on there were really weird, and they were like this uncanny valley of like almost making sense, but often nonsensical. And it was just this weird curiosity that when you went on there, you came away feeling dumber afterward. But I guess the creators of it aren't so dumb after all, because Meta, the parent company of Facebook, just bought it. I can't actually find out how much they paid for it, but I imagine it wasn't nothing.
Yeah, terms were not disclosed. So was it a few million? Was it a few billion? We don't know. We will watch their next earnings call because they will have to disclose it there. But, there's a superpower arms race for the next generation of AI development capability. OpenAI just bought the other half of the Moltbook equation, OpenClaw. They actually hired the founder, and the founder of OpenClaw, which is where you create the agents that then get deployed into Moltbook. They're joining their superintelligence labs over at Meta. So all of these companies, these kind of legacy technology companies, are thinking, God, we've got to figure out this AI thing. We either develop it ourselves or we buy the cool, hot, shiny new object technology out there.
To me, this just seems like grasping at straws, Carmi. Because why would they need a weird, bizarro social networking website for bots?
Because Meta AI, which is the AI bot that's built into Facebook and Instagram and other Meta platforms, is frankly terrible. And Meta needs to come up with a new cool party trick. And incorporating AI agents into Meta AI and then deploying it to the billions of people who are using Meta's tools, that is, actually fairly recently that the company has identified as a key strategy for them. And so they want to give Meta AI a brain transplant. Moltbook is what everyone is talking about. Ergo, let's buy Moltbook and just throw it together and see what happens. It is as chaotic as it sounds. It's one of those acquisitions where it almost feels like they sign the deal, the ink isn't even dry, and they'll figure it out later. But what that looks like, what the is a question that I don't think anyone, much less Mark Zuckerberg, can answer now.
So let me try to make sense of this a little bit. It's not so much the bizarro AI social networking platform with its posts that they want. It's this architecture of like agents posting and doing things that interact with a social networking website. It's that kind of tech that you could foresee pivoting into a real product, maybe.
Yeah, it's, we are entering the era of agentic AI. Moltbook is probably the first successful example of that. They've created a network of millions of followers based on this, pretty fast take up. And so what you do is you bring the people responsible for this, in this case, a software developer and his team, and you do what's called an acqui-hire. Bring them in-house, make them part of your team, and then see what develops. There almost isn't a plan. You're almost trusting that these smart people will figure it out for themselves.
All right. Well, have you actually been on Moltbook? Have you checked it out? Is what I'm saying about it like being almost usable, but the actual bot posts are like kind of confusing. They are, and disturbing in some way, because there was a lot of crypto, a lot of crime, a lot of scams, digital frauds,
trying to create analogs for cyber criminal activity.
Yeah.
So it, kind of, iffy. But of course, the agents reflect the human world that they're built on. And let's face it, the real world is a pretty scary place as well, filled with, quite frankly, scummy people. So why would digital be any different?
Speaking of scummy people, I'm here with not one of them, Carmi Levy, a tech analyst. Carmi, it's been a joy having you on the show. Thanks for going over the tech stories of the day with me.
Really appreciate being with you. Thanks, David.
This episode is brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. No matter how you do game day, on the couch, in the crowd, or manning the snack table, Athletic Brewing fits right in. With a full lineup of non-alcoholic beer styles, you can enjoy bold flavors all game long. No hangovers, no buzz, no subbing out for water in the second half. Stock the fridge for tip-off with a variety of non-alcoholic craft styles available at your local grocery store or online at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, fit for all times.